Hey guys, it's Karen, my review for Boy Erased. And what Boy Erased is essentially about is it centers on the true story of Jared Emons. He was someone who, he was a kid who was in college and he was grown up in a very devout Christian family. And after this incident with one of the students, he is basically forced to reveal to his parents that he's gay. And needless to say, there is a mixed reception there. So his father decides to enroll him into this gay conversion therapy where he is forced to deal with the horrors of that situation. But also we see his parents basically try to come to grips with the fact of who their son really is, how this affects them, and how they may have to change their way of thinking, and that's really all I'm going to say. So, Boy Erased overall, I was very interested in this film, to say the least. I thought it looked really emotional and powerful, and it was a very impactful story, and it was telling, a subject that I don't think we hear about enough, and I was very interested in seeing how it was going to be depicted in this film. The trailer alone is one of the few trailers to actually get me teary-eyed, and knowing that especially made me interested in seeing how this film would turn out, and I'll just say right now, Boy Erased absolutely did not disappoint me. This is a fantastic film that deals with some really heavy themes, but I think handles it in a very delicate manner. But we're just getting to right now, starting off with the cast. And as expected, the cast here is really great. I think everyone really does give a great performance. I think really everyone really is at the top of their game here. And right off the bat, I mean, starting off with our lead here, Hedges, I mean, this is easily the best performance I've ever seen from him. I really loved his work in this film. I mean, this is someone who, he just wants to be accepted. He just wants people to understand who he is, but he's also been forced in this situation where he's kind of questioning it. Like, what do I really do about this? He's being told that this is his decision. This is something that is an illness that he needs to get over, and you see him having to deal with that and having to accept, and eventually, just realizing that no, he isn't going to change, and he really does want to take a stand, and the way he undergoes that, and the way he starts to become a little bit more defiant against people, I really loved in this film. It felt like a very natural shift for his character. You really do care for Jared. You can see what he's going through, and I really loved his acting in this film. Hedges is very quickly, I think, solidifying himself and becoming one of the best young actors out there, and I think this is easily the best work I've seen from him. But someone who was very close was Nicole Kidman. I mean, once again, this is another great performance from her. She really has just been killing it lately, and this is another phenomenal performance. What I really love about Nicole Kidman's character is that this is someone who, at first, it seems like she's very firmly against what he's doing, but as she starts to see the wrongdoings of this gay conversion therapy and the type of stuff that they're involved in, you can see that this really starts to affect her, and you can see that it really starts to change her way of thinking, and their relationship in the film is so well done. There's a lot of great moments with them throughout the film, and I really love Nicole Kidman here. She has some phenomenal moments in this film, and once again, this is another great performance from her. As far as the rest of the cast goes, everyone else does a great job. Joel Edgerton, holy shit. I mean, you want to talk about a piece of shit human being? I mean, this guy absolutely fits that billing as the villain of this camp, who is just so dastardly and really is trying to poison all of their heads and make them think that this is simply just an illness, and the type of things that he does to them, the lengths that he goes to try to prove to them that this isn't, that this isn't good and this is something that they need to get over. It's just really disgusting to think about, knowing that this stuff actually did happen and knowing that gay conversion therapies are run just like this. I mean, it's a very hostile and I think very dangerous environment, and Edgerton really does bring it here and not really shying away from that. Russell Crowe as well is fantastic in this film. Not really in this movie that much, though. You may expect him to be in it a lot. He's really not in it that much, but when he's in it, he really is great. Him and Jared's relationship is one of the most important aspects of the entire film, and especially towards the end of this movie, I think he has some really great work. Really, everyone really does shine here. I don't really think anyone was bad in this film. Well, I will say some of the gay conversion students, some of the people that Jared ends up interacting with, I didn't really think were the best. Troye, Sivan, and Xavier, Dolan especially, I did not think really were all that great. But besides them, I really was impressed by the cast here. But now I really want to get to the directing and the writing, because Joel Edgerton did, of course, direct this film. Now, I haven't seen The Gift, but I've heard that that was a really well-directed film, and you can definitely see that here. I mean, Edgerton, he's talked, I read an interview with him that he talked about how near and dear this was to his heart, and how much this story really did touch him, and how he didn't really feel like he was the right person to tell the story because he wasn't a part of the LGBT community. But you can very well see here that yes, he absolutely was the right person. He knows very well how to tell this story. He does a very good job in showing that passion, and what I love about this film is just how real it really feels. It never feels over dramatic. It never feels like this is something that wouldn't happen. This stuff does happen, and that's why it is so tragic. That is why it is a very hard movie to watch at points, because this stuff is very real, and it's just stuff that we don't really see depicted, and I really love the way that Edgerton does go about it. But the other thing he does very well is how he really does portray these characters, because even characters like Edgerton, they're portrayed as human. They're not portrayed as, he doesn't villainize Edgerton. He shows exactly the type of person that he really was, and what he really does end up doing to Jared. Now, of course, he's not condoning it, but he does a very good job, I think, in knowing how to portray these characters, and that really is echoed in the writing. I mean, every single one of these characters, I think, are really interesting, but especially when it comes to the parents. I was not expecting the parents to be nearly as complex as they really are. You would think from the trailer that the parents would be the villain of this film, but that's not how Edgerton goes about it. In fact, he makes them much more conflicted. He tries to portray them as people who, maybe they do love their son, but they're just kind of confused about this. They don't understand how Jared could feel this way. They're not used to this kind of environment for it. They don't know how to prepare for something like this, and you really do see how it does affect them. And again, he's not condoning the choices that they make in this film, but you can see, what their viewpoints are and how they really feel about this situation. I think that was definitely the right way to go about it here. I think a lesser writer would try to villainize the parents, but this film really doesn't do that. In fact, it actually really does open your eyes to the kind of stuff that does go down at gay conversion therapy, and why the parents actually come off much better than the just villainous and slimy members of that group. I mean, just what they do to these kids, it is devastating to watch. There is one scene in particular involving, I mean, you've seen the trailer, but it involves Edgerton trying to get this kid to yell at his father, and what he has to do to get him to do that. I mean, it baffles me how this stuff is legal, how nobody is doing anything about this, how none of these camps are being shut down. I mean, this is just blatant harassment. It is harassment, it is complete bullying, and it's definitely something that should be shut down, and it is very hard to watch at points. But again, I really do applaud Edgerton for not shying away from that. There are a lot of scenes in this film that are very hard to watch at points, and I think he does do a very good job with the writing overall in terms of the gay conversion therapy, because it's something that I don't think a lot of people understand, like, what really does go down there, and this film really does make you understand, like, yeah, this is one of the worst things that can happen to an individual, and it's something that truly does affect Jared in a way that you would not expect it to, and I really love the way it is done. Well, obviously I don't love it, but the way it's done in this film, I just really loved the way Edgerton did depict that here. Even some of the gay conversion therapy students there, I think were also very well portrayed, because they each have a different way of going about this. You have someone like Xavier Dolan's character, who's just telling Jared to play the part and just, act like there's something wrong with you. But even though deep down that this is who you are, and that this isn't a choice, this is who you want to be, and they can't really stop you. You just have to play the part in that way. And I mean, yeah, we definitely do see that take place, but then you contrast that with another student who views this as, yeah, there is something wrong with me, and I need to do something about it, and you can just see the different viewpoints. It's very fascinating to watch. I mean, they each have a different reason for why they're at this gay conversion therapy, and I do think that was actually very well written there. I really did like the way that was done. That being said, contrary to popular belief, this film is actually not about the gay conversion therapy. That is part of it, but the film really is about Jared and his parents and them trying to process this news and what they really do with it, how it changes their sense of thinking and what it does to their relationship. I mean, it dramatically changes him and his father's relationship. Him and his mother, not really, but him and his father, I mean, it's a very different type of relationship than how it was in the beginning of the movie, and the way it's done, again, it's very devastating, but I do think it is very well written in that regard. That being said, this film is still not perfect. I do think this film does have a couple problems in terms of its structure, especially when it comes to the flashbacks, because in the first act, I think it's a little bit messy. The way the story is told, we start off with him going to the gay conversion therapy, and then we cut back to how he ended up going there, and that's when the film becomes a little bit confusing for me. It was hard to tell, because there are points where Jared is back at his parents' house, you know, after he's been involved in the therapy, so it was hard to tell, like, okay, is this now or was this before? Like, it was kind of hard to tell when that was really happening. And I will also say the reasoning for why Jared is forced to come out to his parents, it is devastating, but I do think that it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I like the way it was handled. You know, again, it was a very ballsy choice, and I don't know if this happened in real life, but it just wasn't, I think, the best way to go about it. You know, I've seen other films deal with it in a better way, and I understand this kind of thing happens, but it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I think they could have done it a little bit better. But other than that, I do think this film is very well written for the most part. I really do like a lot of the choices that's made here. I just thought that the first act was just a little bit messy in terms of that, and a lot of some of the relationships that Jared becomes involved with, I don't think got the necessary focus that they do deserve. Also, very early on, we find out that he was involved in this relationship with this girl named Chloe, and we see her in a couple scenes, but I kind of wish we got a little bit more with her. I understand that's not the point of the film, but I think it would have been a little bit more effective to actually see how he was with her. We really only see it a couple times, and I wish we would have gotten just a little bit more of a focus there. And again, it really is just due to the flashbacks. I think the story should have been told in a linear fashion juxtaposed to a non-linear fashion. I think it just would have made the movie just a little bit better overall. I still really love the movie a lot, but it was one of those things where I do wish the film was told in maybe just a chronological order. In terms of cinematography here, I think this is really great cinematography overall. I mean, the way the gay conversion therapy is portrayed, at times is portrayed like a horror movie. I mean, they really do get into what does go on there. It's very, like I said, horrific to watch, and I think it was definitely really great. Nothing, like, amazing in terms of cinematography, but there definitely are some really great shots in this film that I really did love a lot. In terms of the score is probably one of my favorites of the year, especially when it's played in some really dramatic and suspenseful scenes. I think it's definitely very well helmed there. The song Revelation by Troye Sivan, I do think it's played a little bit too much in the film. It's played at least like 3 or 4 times, and I think they could have maybe played it only like once, but that's really a nitpick. That's not really something that's going to bother me with this film. And the editing, like I said, minus the first act, I think this film is very well paced. I think we did get enough of pretty much everyone. There are some characters that are a little bit underwritten, but overall, Boy Erased really did impress me. I think this is a film that it's very important for a lot of people to see. It tells a story that, sure, we've seen before, but it tells a story in a way that is a little bit different than the others have been told. It has some really great performances from Nicole Kidman, Russell Crowe, and Lucas Hedges. I think they're all really at the top of their game here. And Joel Edgerton as well. I would also factor in him. He really is great here. It is a film that is admittedly hard to watch at times, but I think it is a film that is really going to start a conversation. It's going to be one of those films that I think really does open your eyes to what really does go down there, but also how hard it can be sometimes for parents to deal with this revelation, you know, what it really does to their relationship. And I think it's a very well done film in that regard. It's not one of my favorites of the year, but it still is a film that I really did love a lot, and I'm definitely going to give Boy Erased overall in A-. But over, guys, in my review of Boy Erased, the most you guys saw this movie overall, left your thoughts, and we'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.